soon. All right, we're here.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. I am so excited. Tonight's B&B Monday, we have a very special guest with us. This is Patrick, the trusty huckster, Mercantile on YouTube. If you do not know him, I want all of you to go to the description down below and subscribe. Visit Patrick. His channel is one of my favorites. I found him during the pandemic. I'm not sure. Did you start your channel at that time? Was that
very shortly before? I actually started my entire reselling business started in October of 2019. So I'd really only been active in doing anything for a few months. And I think I launched my first video in Thanksgiving of 2019. So then it was 4 months later that everything locked down. So I did start doing live sales fairly early. So I started those those started during the lockdown. So that was kind of a lockdown activity. Hey, Delbert.
Hey, Kathy.
Kathy's here. So as people are starting to come in, I am going to try to move faster than normal tonight, but I just want to really quick talk about Patrick's influence on our little talk show.
Good or bad, I don't know.
Patrick, it's your fault.
All my fault. I will take you have this. You have come up with a wonderful this whole setup that you have, and the alternating between the two of you is absolutely delightful to watch. I enjoy it greatly, and if I had anything to do to inspire that, I will take that as a greatest compliment.
Oh, you doll. Okay, so Patrick, for anyone who is not familiar with him or his channel or what he was doing, especially during the 2020 year, but he had a wonderful series that he was doing with other YouTube friends, Katie Vintage and Vinyl and Nate Soul Nate. They had, you had the deep dives, and then you also had the triptych, which
so the deep dives actually started first. So that was kind of my thing. And that was where I had live interviews with, specialties. And then I started that. Katie happened to start around the same time. She kind of started a collector's corner. I can't remember what she called it. And it was more of a chat. So then we realized that we were kind of overlapping. And to be perfectly honest, we were reaching out to the same people. So she and I then kind of combined forces. And then we did, duo dive. So that's what launched the duo dive. And then Nate was always there to support us. And so then we started the triptych between the three of us. So it's morphed. And then, life's gotten in the way. So they've kind of gone on hiatus, but I hope they'll come back. I definitely have some topics that I want to do. But that's kind of what started it. But it's because I like the research. Like I do resell. It is a side hustle for me. And one of the things I like about it is I like to sell stuff that I like. And a lot of times it's trying to figure out, well, what do I have? And I would say half of the collections that I actively add to right now all started after I became a reseller because I'd stumble upon something. Ooh, what's that? And then I researched it and be like, I need more of this in my life.
Yeah, we have sparked obsessions for each other through this whole process.
Absolutely.
So,
oh my gosh, completely. Yes. And I really love the fact that you were the only channel that I had found where it was live and there was so much interaction. There was so much research. I definitely didn't think that I could handle that. I mean, you guys really would spend well over an hour, more like 2 to 3 sometimes, and really go into a lot of in-depth research and sharing of what you discovered about the various topics you decided to explore. And I loved it so much. And I definitely wanted to incorporate something like that into our little chat show. So you definitely were the influence. And I want to thank you because it's one of my favorite parts of doing our show. So
excellent. I'm honored that I inspired you to do that, and you do a wonderful job carrying it as you've gone. So,
hey, Gavin,
and appreciate you having me on here because this is
a
topic that I enjoy, and it was one that just never turned into anything. And so, hey, it's a great topic that we can all cover together.
Exactly. So we are all gathered here to discuss Victorian trade cards.
Wait,
And
you can't skip over the beginning, Heather.
Are we going to do cheers?
Well, yeah, cheers. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Thanks to Patrick for joining us.
Yeah,
Heather's having wine.
I'm having wine.
I'm having a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Oh, I made a cocktail. It's been a while, and I needed one. But
you know what's funny?
Monday, everyone.
Yeah, I don't know if you. I really want to get started, but before that, Patrick, I want to tell you, I was on a sale with Catherine Young, beautiful Catherine Young, and she thought that Brocante and Bergamot were both types of wine. so she thought B&B Mondays meant booze and booze.
Fantastic.
No, we just happen to need something stronger than tea most weeks, so we switched.
Sometimes it works out that way, but
I have Earl Grey infused gin, so it's still bergamot.
There you go. It's related.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now I want to go through what I have a short presentation kind of on the trade cards during the Victorian era and how they really permeated the landscape at the time. So firstly, I'm going to share, these are a few examples pre-Victorian era. These I got from the British Museum, these examples, and I find them really attractive. If I came across one of these, I would definitely want to keep it.
I need that long bottom one for my dad.
The long bottom one, yeah, that I think it was from around 1820. I didn't put the dates of them, but they're all early, like the early 19th century. And the long bottom one was specifically for a gentleman who his trade was providing skeletons for those who would need them for whatever various projects they were doing. But I know it's a fantastic card.
Was he
I love it.
Robber?
I don't know. It says veterinary college, so he was probably
articulator to the veterinary college. That seems like a smoke screen.
So I guess articulator, is that like was that the professional term of skeleton maker for the
skeleton procurer?
Procurer, exactly.
So I guess you don't want to just dump the bones on them. You have to articulate.
Yeah, you have to articulate them, I guess. Yeah.
Put them in the right order. So, the head bone's not connected to the shin bone.
Yeah. Horses have a lot of bones.
So good to see you. I just want to say hello. And you too, Chris. Love you. I'm so happy to see all of you guys here. This is Patrick, if you're coming in late. And we are talking Victorian trade cards. So we are at the early 19th century, just to give an idea of like how much things are going to change here. We're going to jump forward to 1837, where Godfrey Engelmann is awarded the patent for chromolithography. This is basically just the advancement of the lithographic process, where as a traditional lithograph, you've got one stone plate. The chromolithograph was where you would use multiple stone plates for each individual color. They had to be aligned very specifically so that the image would come out correctly. And some of these, oh, sorry. Thank you.
There we go.
I'm just ducking underneath the little.
I'm trying to hide.
I
can't hide here.
So, oh, and I was just going to say, at this time when they were using the stones, sometimes they would use 20 separate stone plates to achieve that detail and depth of color. It was a long, painstaking process. And time evolves, advancements happen and achieve. And by 1870, we have rotary printers. And at the time, they were called cylinder lithographic printing machines. And there's this awesome poster here of one made by R. Ho and Company. And that company was very big with printing machines and presses throughout the entire 19th century. So this, rotary cylinder machines are now starting to be in all the printing houses. And now is the time where the prints are able to be made with higher speed, lower costs, it's more efficient. And this is when we see chromolithography in color print works, not just in advertising, but book illustrations, postcards, calling cards. And that's really when the trade cards started to be used big time, 1875 to 1900. And I didn't add this, but after 1900, the trend started to lean more toward postcards once they started to be full postcards, and then also magazines started to go color. So 1875 to 1900, these color trade cards offered wonderful, colorful depictions of everyday life made better by the product being sold. And it was wonderful because they were used to seeing ads in newspapers and catalogs that were all black and white. So they started to be collected, and they were really enjoyed, whether the imagery was sweet, beautiful, and lovely, or comical and entertaining. These were the most prevalent forms of color advertising, along with labels and advertising posters. Okay, we're almost done, guys. Hang in there. So we have custom cards and stock imagery cards. The custom cards were ones that were designed for the company, but there were also pre-printed stock imagery. So someone would come into the printing press and they would see what the printers had, and they might just pick something randomly and say, put my name on it. And sometimes that's where you will see trade cards where the image doesn't particularly have anything to do with the product that it's advertising. It might be some funny little advertisement, and it's, it's for soap, but you don't see the connection. So you will come across cards like that if you're ever deciding to start a collection. Those do exist. So the bright colors and pretty or amusing themes made them very desirable to the customers. I mean, these things were just laid out on the store counters. They were passed out at exhibitions. They were passed out on the street. And people would collect them. Many of the cards had stories, or they eventually started having series for them. And it encouraged repeat business. And people really liked putting them in the albums. And the albums are if you can find ones, like I think Patrick has one to share, those are really, really special if you can get your hands on one of those. And so Patrick, when I was talking to him, was explaining that he kind of categorizes them into 3 different categories of full cards, half cards, and scrap. So full cards, obviously, you've got the advertising on the back with the imagery on the front. Half cards, or everything's on the front and the back of it is blank. And then scrap would be just the basic image, but no kind of advertising on it at all. I got that right?
Yep. And that's like an unofficial that's just something, because I don't have a huge collection of them, but I do like to deal in ephemera. And so it's just one, as I've started seeing them, like the scrap category ends up being, in some cases, they were still issued by stores, but they were issuing them so they could go into those scrapbooks. They could go, they were given to kids. It was something that, it's kind of like if you have something in your house that you got as a gift, you remember where you got it from. So if a store gave you that weird looking frog, every time you open your scrapbook and you see the frog, it doesn't have to say the store's name on it. You'll still remember what store gave it to you. So it's where it gets dicey is that's also like greeting cards could then get chopped up and look kind of like a trade card. So I kind of created those categories for myself, because to me, the full cards have the highest value, in my opinion, because there's always really interesting information on the back. It's all about the company. It's where the company was located. The half cards, they are nice to be framed because there's nothing on the back. But everything's right there on the front, but I still like them. I mean, I'm the huckster. I'm the trusty huckster. I like that selling part of it. And then the scrap, some of them are gorgeous, but it's like, you don't know, it could have just been from a greeting card. So that's kind of why I get categorized.
It's more of a question.
And I saw Joyce put something in there about they use a lot of children. So I'm glad you have this chart. There are a lot of themes, and sometimes the themes what gets collected.
Yes.
Else.
yeah, that's basically all I'm going to go over with is just 3 things of like how, if you wanted to start a collection, there's so many different ways you might decide to do that. And one of those ways is subject matter. So not by the product, but just by maybe you just like ladies and you want to have all the pretty gals and maybe focus your attention, streamline it to that. Children were huge. I mean, you know, children were used in Victorian imagery everywhere. And so those actually are going to be much easier to find than maybe some more specific things. Like if you decide you want to collect bicycles, that might be a little harder to find if you're doing subject matter where bicycles are going to be on your trade cards. And then of course, humor was huge. I think humor is probably one of the most fun categories to collect in trade cards.
And some of their humor is hard to understand.
That's true. It's like play on words of a word
funny?
that no longer exists.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
wait, what's the joke? I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So of course the next obvious would be the subject matter. So if you're doing sewing, there's a lot of these sewing ones.
Yeah, I bought a sewing card one for my friend Laura.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome
Lots
trade.
of sewing machines and threads and things like that. I also have examples, shoes, hats, and bitters, but you could do soap, you could do all sorts of different.
You could get ultra niche, or what's nice, like my ex-wife had some of these for the sewing room. So they were just ones that she put them in little inexpensive dollar store frames, and the barrier to entry for collecting these is very low. I mean, most of these you can come across even at the retail level. You're probably not going to pay more than $5 or $10 for most of them. If they get large, or they get if they have a lot of cross collectability, like it's also a World's Fair piece. Okay, those are going to start getting more expensive, but it's fairly inexpensive to find them, and they look great framed. And if you just do all the sewing ones, I think that's probably one of them. It's the Coates, like Coates and Clark. They did tons of them, and they just had designs coming out their ears, and you could never collect them all.
I have a Coates and Clark advertising box, and I love it so much.
Like the ones like the top one that you've got that show the sewing machine. You don't even have to collect sewing machines or do anything with that. Just looks cool. And
the one I got for Laura, it's a bird on the front. It has absolutely nothing to do with sewing until you turn it over, and then it talks about the singer, and they'd bring it to your home for a trial.
Yeah.
Well, like I got one that I'll show. It's same thing. You wouldn't know until you flipped it over what it's actually advertising. So
yeah, I just wanted to really hit one last category that I would be interested in personally, and that would be die cut cards. And I just have a few examples here, but there actually were quite a few I think that are accessible. It's not like you can't find them, and they're super rare. They are out there, and they're just really cute. The acorn I thought was adorable. The paper doll,
die cut ones tend to be the most damaged. I suppose like the thread one, that's not too bad, but like that little acorn one, that little pointy piece, it'll be gone most of the time.
Oh yeah,
that's and for people that do know my channel, I'm very big into condition. And so that to me is just part of the fun. Like you find one, like, oh, I love this acorn one. Hey, get it in whatever condition you find it in. Then the next time you find it, you upgrade. Like, ooh, wait, this one's in a slightly better condition. And then you give away the original one, or you sell it, or you do something with the original. But that's the hardest part with the die cuts, is they just tend to be more fragile.
Yeah, you do like a swap. Okay, so now.
Joyce wants to know about ones with like a gold shiny background.
I think I have one or two that have that. And I think that just became it was a
couple of the ones I have are silvered, like shiny silver. So
I think it was just done because it was an eye-catching color. Because you figure in most homes, because again, if you think of the timeline that was shared, 1875, 1885, that's when that started getting popular. Well, electricity didn't start getting common until like the 1890s and beyond. So if you have a really brightly metallic, the candlelight, if you have it anywhere on display in your home, the candlelight would reflect off of it. And these were designed to be inexpensive art. Some of the beautiful art we find in old 19th century newspapers, the reason it's there is so that you could buy this, 5-cent newspaper but you could then suddenly have this really cool, piece of art. One of my favorite Christmas decorations is the centerfold from a Harper's Weekly, and it's a Santa Claus. It's a Christmas design.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Anybody could have had it. That bought that magazine. They could put it up, frame it, or just tape it up to your wall. That was your art. So the metallics they're definitely popular, and I don't have that many of them. But those will add to the costs.
Is there a name for the metallic ones, or
I don't know? To be perfectly honest, I don't know. What I find with the metallics is that the ink that got printed on them doesn't tend to stick around as well. So because again, and I'll show some of this, a lot of them were printed kind of on spec. They'd go through the whole process of creating the card, and then the company information be printed on top of it. The printing on top of the metallic,
it just goes away.
There was some sort of it just didn't work as well. So the ones that I have, I always have some sort of ink issue that go with them. So we're going to start out. I don't have a huge collection for myself. I do love dealing with ephemera. It's funny that you mentioned Catherine Young. So I travel for a living for my day job. This is a side thing for me, doing vintage and antiques. And I actually visited her, and she took me to one of her favorite antique malls. And she ended up walking the entire mall while I was parked in the one booth with all the ephemera. And she was just like, I can't believe you spent like over an hour just in this one booth. And I'm like, there's some great stuff in here. But you would like dig through the box. That's the stuff that I enjoy doing. I'm not big into being dirty and dusty. It's just it's all stacked together. You can put a lot of stuff in a very small amount of space. And it's very tactile, and you just never know what you're going to find. And I have a hard time sourcing ephemera. You don't find it at a Goodwill. You don't find it at a Savers. They don't tend to put paper like that out because it's not going to survive. So it's got to be an estate sale. It's got to be, I buy a lot of stuff from antique shops because in some cases, if they don't specialize in ephemera, it's just in a little box off to the side and everything's $1. And you can find some really cool pieces. So what I do, I collect porcelain related trade cards. So I've done a video before, and I'll just show them really quickly for people that don't know them. This is later. These are cigarette cards. And so this entire binder is filled with cigarette cards that are all porcelain related. So there's all different companies. They're all tobacco cards, and they all, some of these are silks. So there's just all these different designs. So this is not what we're talking about, but so this is what started it. And then I found.
I want to see the porcelain.
I know.
It's grown since the last time I showed the collection, so I probably should do another video to show like what the collections are, because now some of the collections are complete.
Send it my way. I will watch.
There's some fun stuff in there, but as I'm searching for those, like I've got all the different eBay search terms and stuff to pop up. It's porcelain trade card, porcelain tobacco card, porcelain cigarette card. Things like these will pop up. So this is a trade card. So since we talked about it, this is a die cut trade card. And what I love about this one happens to be Brattleboro, Vermont, but this exact same design you can find for a New York store, a Boston store, a Philadelphia store, because this company just printed these in mass, and then the black ink, this little white section here, was what they printed on. And so, you could say, I'm just going to collect an entire series of just this shape and go to town, but that would be very hard. This is the only one I have, although I've come across a couple.
I love that one. Me too, Tammy. I love that one.
Another subcategory. So this is another style that I collect. So they don't always have like multiple colors on it. So this is relatively simple, but the subcategory is calendar ones. So this is 1884.
Wow.
So we've got the J.C. Choate Company of Woodstock, Illinois. And for those who don't know me, I am based in Illinois. So I always like to get the retailer ones that are Illinois based.
Is that a transferware?
Yeah. So that style is very aesthetic movement. You can kind of date it just from the front, but then you pop it back and you discover, 1884. That's right when that style was popular. And then in a very similar, so I put them side by side, it's a different card, but kind of the same concept. They would produce them for different porcelain makers.
Johnson
so this one is from East Hardwick, Vermont. But it's a different style. but also has the calendar on the back. So I collect it for the porcelain, but I love the fact that these are dated. So this one's a little bit later.
Yeah, that's great.
95.
I'm
You
gonna keep an
mentioned a
eye out
little
for it,
bit
Patrick.
about ones that were done in a series. So these are kind of little subcategory I created of stores that sold porcelain. So they're not selling, it's not promoting the porcelain, it's really promoting the store. And there's a whole series of these that were done, the wonders of the world. So you can see at the top, the seven wonders of the world. This was the Temple of Diana. And then
wow, those are
colors.
Yeah, the colors on these are fantastic. They're
the Gardens of Babylon.
So it's and they're all for the same store. So they would have created these in a series. And what would have happened is the blanks would have been created as a set of 7, and then they just printed their name down at the bottom. So they're of course
I wonder if it was like Beanie Babies and they came out on a specific day so that people knew they needed to go to the store that day.
At least with this one, you need 7. Some of them you don't know how many there are. And so like you just have to come on, are there any more? Did I miss any? So those, and then I think you mentioned this in passing in one of the slides. This is just another one worth noting. These are also done as a series. These are Liebig cards, and it's a food company, and you can see the product is always down in the lower corner. This is a set of 6, and this is an entire series of cards about the manufacturing of porcelain. So this, and they do these in different things. So like this one is for porcelain. This one I don't have a complete set of, but this one is for the making of paper. And so you can see down at the bottom, or wait, somewhere around here, it said that what number this card was. Maybe it was on the back. So Liebig always did them as a set of 6, but they're also always in German. So you have to kind of figure out what exactly they're promoting. But Bullion. And then this was one of the German kings. But you've always got the product right there, Fleisch extract, Liebig's Fleisch extract. So Joyce is asking, how can you tell if they're original as opposed to reproductions or stuck in an album?
In my opinion, it's because chromolithography has a very specific look, and there aren't any printers, at least nowadays.
It's going to be sharp.
It's not going to look the way printing pieces do today. So once you get used to looking at printed pieces of chromolithography, it's fairly easy to recognize. Wouldn't you say?
Looking at it and handling it, because you're also going to you're going to get used to the weight of the paper. Like what's the finish? Just like postcards, there's the linen finish postcards. There's all the different types of postcards. Pretty much if you handle postcards at any amount of time, you'll notice, these are like 60s or 70s. Like it's very obvious that they were produced at a different time. The benefit is most of these are not valuable enough to have created like fakes. So if they're reproductions, they'll typically be done by the company that did them originally. And they're usually they'll say, reissue, or they'll put a new copyright date on them. Cigarette cards, that's a big thing. There was a regrowth in cigarette cards in the 50s. And so they re-released some of the same designs they did in the 20s. So, but they look different. They look better. They're much cleaner. And then the image is way sharper. They're honest about it. So that's really my entire trade card collection. Like that's all I own, but I have tons that I deal with as I buy and sell. So we did mention the scrapbook. So before anyone gets mad at me, this scrapbook was falling apart when I got it. So it's one of those Victorian scrapbooks. The pages were already falling out, but I pulled out some of the pages. Well, and I've taken some of these I've actually already taken out of the album. So like, we talked about die cuts. This one is not technically a die cut though, because, and this is a big thing with trade cards, you can look on the back, they cut it out. So this used to be a trade card, but then they wanted to put it in their album. So maybe at the top, it might have had the company name or the product name. So they actually chopped it up and then glued it down. So it is technically still a trade card, but and then it kind of falls into the scrap category again. So I will say what I will typically sell and buy them for. In general, again, I would like. What is your experience? You've got a couple. When you come across them, what do you see?
Yeah, mine are anywhere from a few dollars. I mean, unless it's something like if it's anyway creepy, Halloween related, like anything, it's going to be
like this is a relatively straightforward card that you wouldn't think has a lot of value to it. And, you know, the information on the back of it, you know, it's kind of a cool company, but it is actually a card from the Centennial Exhibition of 1876. So this is Machinery Hall from 1876, Philadelphia. So you have a ton of collectors specifically of the Centennial Exposition. So they're not going to want this because it's a trade card. They're going to want this because it's part of this. And it's also part of a set. I only have two, but they had them made for all the different buildings. So they're gonna chase the prices of something like this up. So these could go.
Wasn't there also like a Panama exhibition?
Oh yeah, they did them for the Chicago exhibition. All of them had them because it's just like the little slide presentation, how they were handing them out. Those halls, if they were lucky enough to be in the hall,
you know what I need? I need a Jenny Lind trading.
There you go. It was talking about their technology. It was talking about their
there's
culture.
going to be some.
And this one was just specifically talking about their architecture. So these will probably go still only like maybe $20. Like there are cards that will go for over $100, but that's really, really rare. I sell them in the $5 to $10 range, and the scrap ones are like $1. You know, it's like they're not particularly valuable.
She was here in 1850, so she probably missed the whole trading card thing. But they just named everything Jenny Lind and sold it that way.
Right. So you're probably not going to find one of her. You're going to find something called after her.
Yeah.
And those etching plate ones, the black and white, just the black ink, those would be gorgeous. And I think you probably could find some because she was definitely in newspaper advertising at that time.
Yeah, she was. So Barnum plastered her on everything.
Sometimes you'll find these pages selling by themselves. And I will just say, even though they're glued down, you can get them undone. So there's a product called Undo. I did a video about it. And it's works really well for trade cards because trade cards are thicker. Like think of a business card. It takes off the glue and it's thick enough that you don't destroy the paper. Sometimes, like this is actually cut from a newspaper. You can just tell even looking at it. This is not going to come off.
That's not going to come off
easily. No. It's just like the minute you try and scrape it, it's going to disintegrate. So you just be aware of that. So you can sometimes find these albums that are falling apart. Sometimes the pages are, and they're themed. Like here's an all horse.
That's a great collection right there. Just that page. And
like this is somebody could just frame this on its own. I mean, it's just a cool piece. And some of them are super, super, super elaborate where they're like on top of each other and it's just like a whole collage. The person who did this one was tidy. So they tended to just be very individually printed on here. But, you know, again, you can kind of see.
They gave everything lots of space.
They sell.
Look at him.
Celluloid collars.
He has a collar on his head like a crown. That's so cute.
Oh, he's dressed up like the Pope.
So Chestnut Street. So sometimes you have to kind of do some investigative reporting because I'm going to assume Chestnut Street, New York, Chestnut Street, Boston, Chestnut Street.
There's lots of Chestnut Streets.
Philadelphia, exactly. Like sometimes it's not obvious, but they didn't put it because they were handing it out in their hometown. You didn't even know what town they were in. So there's a lot of stuff like that. Some, again, some.
Then you have to ones. Pay attention to context clues. Yeah.
So this is just they're out there. At some point, I will try and take some more of them away. But the biggest thing with Undo, and this is like I kept this as an example. So I was able to take this one off, and I was able to take this one off, and then I put them back to back to dry, and they glued themselves back to each other. So you just have to be really careful that the Undo will take it off the paper, but it doesn't necessarily take the adhesive off the back. So you just have to be really careful. And the best way to store stuff like that is unfinished side to unfinished side so that you don't actually ever stick something onto the artwork that when you pull it off, you lose any art. So that's just a storage thing. But I wanted to cover one of the things that you had in your presentation. So again, I kind of talked about it there. The idea that people would make these in bulk. So these are at a glance, you guys did a fantastic video on Victorian calling cards.
Mm-hmm.
And at a glance, you would think that this is just maybe a slightly larger calling card. But, and this one might be a blank for calling card, but what you need to be aware of is they turned calling cards into trade cards. Mm-hmm. So this is a manufacturer of fine cigars. And check out the art on that. The bird with eggs and beautiful flowers, not necessarily what you'd equate to a cigar purveyor, but this is the exact same size of a typical calling card. So there happens to be this one. Then it's the same company, but you can see the designs are similar, but they're not identical. So the cards would have been printed as a set, and then you could pick which design you wanted to use. And this company picked at least these two. So we've got that, and I actually have one other example.
I love the cabinet card photos are $1 a dozen.
Yes, and those are my favorite ones to sell, are the ones that are actually advertising the printing. So buy this design, and you could buy them for X number of dollars or whatever. But this I happened to pick up, and I didn't even know what it was at the time. But you can see it's the same company, but it's all circus themed.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And so there's 10 different designs. I guess not all circus, but like all animals. I think it is all circus.
There's a guy in a kilt.
And so you've got the advertisement for the company, but this would be a case, these are not numbered. So you wouldn't know. Mm-hmm. I don't even know. Did they make more than 10? I don't know, because there's nothing on here that says who was the printer. Mm-hmm. That's pretty uncommon to say who gets credit for the printing, or even like the artist or copyright. Some of them will have copyrights, but for like a set like this, you would have gone into the little print shop. They would have said, "Hey, look at these great designs," and they're like, "Hey, I'll take one of all of them," and then they print, 100 of each or 500 of each, whatever they.
But even though those were stock cards, the fact that you have them in a set, how much does the value increase if you have, you said you had 6 in that, or 8 in that set?
10. I've got 10 in the set. In general, having a set of anything is going to increase the value between 10 and 25%, just depending on what the market will bear. In something like this, I would say it's closer to like 25%, because it's just not common to have a set. They just didn't survive in that way. And I'm not sure why this survived. Somebody either took a really long time to collect them, or came from the print. Like a lot of times they'll come from the printer. So the printer will have these left over. And that's what a lot of my examples are. So like I showed the one. So here's another one. And here's another one. I don't even know which direction that's supposed to go. And then there's like one with this tiny, tiny little corner that you put your printing into. Another like a half of a calling card one with all that room on the bottom to put. And then one of my favorites, like all of that area, that light area would all be considered the printing area. So you could put a lot, on this compared to this.
Yeah, I would just look at that one and be like, oh, that's a postcard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's the fact that, and that's why you also need to know about postcards. So postcards prior to 1901 were not called postcards. So if you ever see something called a postcard, it has to be after December 1901. If it's got a divided back, it has to be after 1907. And so since you're dealing with trade cards, if you've got anything on the back, that's kind of what took over for trade cards. So it doesn't mean that this wasn't a blank for a postcard at some point, or a post or a private mail card, but they didn't really have art that early in the shipping. Kathy's got the funeral cards. Those a lot of times would be trimmed in black. So when they were printed in samples, they would actually already have the black border
on it,
because it would be difficult to add the black later. So those tend to, like, you could, I guess, have like a pastoral scene, but the true collected funeral cards tend to be the ones with the black border, and then like a cross or a dove or something that's symbolic of that. Another area of cards, and this just gets into, again, it's almost getting into tobacco cards, is they get numbered. And so you can see this one is number 178. there were a ton of these. So this was designed like this probably was like a premium, like a tobacco card. This is probably a premium that came in the candy. So you've got things like that. These are the metallic ones. I wanted to grab it really quick because I don't want to run out of time. So let me take it out of its plastic. But this is one of the examples of the metallic. This one actually has the original retailer's price from a while ago. So they were selling it for $7. So you can see it's got the gold in the backdrop, but you can barely see the black on the bottom. So it's there. It's just, because of that glare, it's harder for it to retain it. So this is for, got to pull out my cheaters here. This I think was for a grocery store. So there was this one, and this was also part of a series. She was Italy, so she's dressed in the Italian colors and the Italian symbols.
I need her.
And this one's from Spain.
Are you selling Italy?
Oh, the Spain. I like the Spain one.
Everything except the porcelains, all of these will be going up for sale. So some are like, I didn't pull anything from my eBay store yet. Those are like, I've got a humor one. I've got a puzzle one on my eBay store, and I meant to pull it out and I forgot because that kind of falls in that humor category, but it's like there's a riddle on it. So those are all fun things. So but that gold background, I've got a couple others, but of the stacks I've got around me, there's not a ton of those, but those three. And then as a reseller, it's kind of an ethical thing. Do I keep them as a set or do I break them up? Like, I'm sure there's more than just Italy and Spain. So the reality is I'll probably
you don't have them all. Yeah,
I don't have them all. So I'll probably separate them out. So if someone is collecting them, if they just need Italy, they can just get Italy. Or there's gonna be someone who'll collect it because she's Italy, not because she's the grocery store or because she's a trade card. Exactly. Like there's going to be things that people just like, oh, that's my hometown. That's there's going to be, there's a whole subcategory that as a reseller, I've got to find all the keywords that I can put in there because I just sold a diner menu, like a drive-in diner menu, and it sold within an hour of me listing it and I'm shipping it to the town where that diner was located. Okay. Nice. So there's no big shock of who bought it. It's like as a general menu that it's in Florida. She was going to buy it because she was in Florida. I was going to be able to sell it up here in Chicago. So sometimes people will buy just for that. We get into these were, again, I don't think these were numbered.
Don Quixote.
So we got a series of Don Quixote for cooked meats.
Cooked meats.
So I happen to have 3 of those. These I'll probably keep together because it's Don Quixote. These I think would look cool framed together, even if it's not the full set. Like 3, I think 1 is intentional, 2 is an accident, 3 is a collection. So when you have 3, you could say you've got an instant collection of trade cards, and they're all color coordinated. So if you like Don Quixote, if you like the color,
you like cooked meats,
you like cooked meat. You've got all of that right there, and then you've got the little explanation down the bottom. Now these all happen to be blank on the back because it does have all of that on the front. But I did grab. Oh, I also want to show one of my favorite die cut ones. Oh, so this is a ring size guide. So it's fairly early. I don't know a specific date to it, but it's for a catalog ordering company that if you want to place your order for the rings, here's how you determine which ring size you are.
Oh,
that's so close.
So this would have more value simply because none of the rings have torn out.
Right.
That this is going to be based on condition more than anything else. So I love architectural ones. I just love the ones when the buildings are on there, the illustrated ones. I've got a couple other calendar ones. This one I still want to research because I think it's a very cool card. Oh, but it's promoting something called Household. And on the back, it's 1881, but it also just says Household, but it's in quotes. So it's like, I don't know what this is promoting. But it's
I would say drapes.
But yeah, and maybe it could be furniture, it could be drapes, it could be, who knows? but it's a brilliant marketing tool, just like realtors who use now. They send you a calendar, and then you put that calendar on your
you'll
refrigerator.
stick it on your fridge, on your bulletin board.
Whatever they're selling, household, like you're going to see that every day you look at the calendar in 1881, you're going to have that, even though it's on the back. So I got that one. One of the questions was, how do you know if they've been removed from an album? There you go. Yeah. You lose the art. So this is from 1883, but you can see this one didn't actually lose the art. This has actual paper still on it. Mm-hmm. So I might be able to clean that up a little bit more. But that's the biggest victim of these cards. So this is for a silver polish. And it's unfortunate because I just even some on the calendar, there's some cool artwork on the back. Like, check out that owl.
Yeah, that's good.
But it's for the best silver polish. But then you also, like right there, it's 1883. So you know exactly what it is. And then this one was for always good to have dogs or cats. These. Those will always sell, just like you showed this guy. And then you throw the kid in there too. Now, to me, the kid ruins it. But you know, get the dogs and the cats in there. Those were always going to be popular. So this is ruby foam for the teeth, a perfect liquid dentifrice. This one does have a copyright on there, and then Hoyt's German cologne, and they did the calendar a little bit differently on the back.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
I think that's just a super cool. So 1897, it's just a super cool way of like looking at it, but it's still, you've got some advertising, so it still is the Hoyt's name on the back, and then a little advertising piece, but it serves the purpose of having a calendar. It just looks cool, but it would probably sell well because of the dogs. So from like, what's it worth? This one ends up being worth a little bit more because people will want it again, because they're like, this is probably about 3x5. So you could get a regular photograph frame and just frame this puppy up, literally. You have puppies, and you've got a beautiful piece for a vignette, hang on your wall, put in your powder room. These are super inexpensive, and they pack a wallop. And the fact that it's got the dogs in there is going to increase the price.
Yeah, Karen. And the hard thing about the online estate sales is sometimes the photographs aren't taking into account that a lot of us want to see every little detail. And so you might be bidding on something where there is a crease and it is not disclosed in the description. That's what I find.
And I find the same thing. They're very rarely, because unless it's been framed, if it's on display and they consider it art, in which case it'll be priced really high. If you're going to an estate sale trying to find the variety at a low price, those are going to be in the boxes in the basement. So you go to the basement first. And the problem with any of that kind of stuff is they're never going to show it in photographs because they don't consider it valuable enough. There's different ways. I was just talking to an auction house that I go to. He's limited to 200 pictures on estatesales.net. But when he goes to auction zip, I think it's called, that one, he can do 1,000 pictures. So he's like, look at the estate sales one to get an idea, but go to the auction zip one to get more detail. But they're still not going to open up the boxes. And I've been very successful going into boxes that I will go on the last day of an estate sale, and I'm actually taking the tape off of those boxes because
you're the first one in.
Yeah, because people are like, I'm not going to dig through the old boxes. Well, the old boxes are where the newspapers are. It's where the magazines are. If you want mid-century modern fashion magazines, if you want turn of the century newspapers, that they're all packed in boxes. And you just sometimes you're going to get dirty, but it's time to dig for it. We talked a little bit about cards that you had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think this is advertising?
Balloons?
I'll slide it down because the top actually does say. So if anyone knows, New Home is a sewing machine. And check out, if I were to frame this and keep this, I'd frame the back.
Oh my God.
The kid is still wearing the pants.
He's mending them while
going through the sewing machine. I find this
that was awesome.
So it's a New Home sewing machine, but the illustration on the back I find even better than the illustration on the front. And so like this is a category, and some of them, this is actually really thin. So this gets into like, is this actually a trade card? Could this be something else? I think Heather Elizabeth, you had a really large format ones. Like sometimes they start crossing over. This one is the cool actual illustration of the sewing machine on it. But, got a little girl and then the new home sewing machine, but blank on the back. So this one is the Württemberg. It even says right on there, turn over. So this is from the Singer Manufacturing Company. White sewing machines. I say the kiddies are going to sell this one.
I need that one.
If it's a white, it's all right.
It's got a teapot on it.
I know, and it's perfect. That's what I was thinking. The teapots.
Yep.
So I know
there's some Jasperware back there.
Yeah. So obviously these are the ones you're selling. And Patrick, not only do you have an eBay, you also are doing Instagram drops where you're doing 90 seconds of vintage, where sometimes you're dropping stuff like this. I know I am going to be able to do an ephemera sale with you in 2 weeks. Which ones is the scrapbook going to be at the ephemera sale? Can we get any hints as to where we can find what?
Well, first of all, anything that I'm showing, if you're interested in it, just drop me a note. I sell privately all of the time. I do not stand on principle unless I say it's going to be part. I don't do offer ups on any of my sales. I'll sometimes put some auction items, but those go into eBay. So unless I say it's going to be at an auction on eBay, if we can agree on a price, I'll work with you on it. The scrapbook pages, what I might do is I might sell them just as whole pages, because the fact of the matter is it took a lot, just that little stack, it took a lot of undo to get those off. And I got to a point where I'm like, I can't just take all of them off because they're not all valuable, and undo is not cheap. It's not expensive, but it's not cheap. If you're going to go through a half a bottle, you need to make sure that you're going to get some decent money on the things that you're taking off. So I did some pages. I did a video on that. The rest of them have really been sitting on my desk because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. So the horse one, I might just sell that as a horse. But the problem is you've got all the ones on the back. They're two-sided pages. That's what kind of stinks about it. But everything that I'm showing, except for my porcelain collection, it's for sale. And so 90 seconds of vintage is something I tried for a while. It was moderately successful. I need to do some more of those. There's an eBay group that I joined that is called Paper Nerd. And about every other month, I might start going to every month, but about once a month, they offer a Paper Nerd sale. And so it's always hashtag Paper Nerd. The last one is 41. So the next one will be 42. So you just follow the hashtag. And I sell a ton of stuff on that. My big thing is I do $5 ephemera sales. So the bulk of this stuff, even the scrap ones, I'll just put 3 of them together and then sell it for $5 because I'm not selling stuff for $1. I got to still pay for the envelope. I've got to pay for there's got to be worth my time. But $5 ephemeras have been really popular because it's again, low threshold to entry. So almost all of the ones that I'm selling, she'd be $5. Definitely the one this one might be a little bit more because I just don't know if I want that one to go.
Graphic, yeah.
There's cards like this.
Oh.
She'll probably go for more because of the cats, but she's just a soap ad. And I pulled this one out because some companies changed the way they did it. So this is both of the same company. This doesn't say anything on the front of who the company is. This one does. So sometimes they promoted their own product and sometimes they didn't. But unless they're special, the ones that are double-sided, these are going to be maybe $8. Some of them will go up to $8. The single-sided ones are almost always going to be $5 or under. And they're just fun. And there's one set. Here's a set I liked just because I found them attractive. This happens to be a theme. These are all insurance company cards, and they all have the same look. So this one, it's got the little sailboat on there. So I don't know if this was somebody that specialized in them, but they all have this same pale color on there. And this one has the insurance company name on the front.
There's just such a variety. I mean,
now that I'm thinking about it, I should have gone through my ephemera books because I bought 13 albums of ephemera, and
So she's an insurance card one, but she's been cut down.
There's a whole set from an insurance company with
somebody
like silly sayings on them.
Yeah, so somebody thought that this would be cool to go in a scrapbook, and so they've cut it up so you can tell on the back. I also this whole set. There's some really cool art, and they're really thick. Like these are the thickest ones I have, and you really can tell, but these are very rigid. So, what Huck fan I'm assuming, but it's been cut.
Okay. Wow.
So this also happened to be an insurance company, but they got cut down. But you can see they have an impressed border on it. So it's almost like they were designed.
It was intended, yeah.
So I don't know. I've got that one. These are all from this, they all have the same backing. So you've got this one on watch, and then this one. So they're all the same style. They're all from the same kind of backing, but they basically were being turned into scrapbook items or art.
What's the hashtag for paper nerds?
So it's hashtag paper nerd and then the number. So the last one was paper nerd 41. That was the March sale. So the April sale will be paper nerd 42. And I don't know when the sale will be. I don't think they've announced it yet. But you can go in and hashtag paper nerd 41. Some of my stuff's still available. So you can see what I listed. And you can follow. I think last sale had 45 sellers just selling paper. So it's a fantastic hashtag on Instagram. It's a fantastic hashtag to follow. It's always a 2-day sale. It's first come, first serve. There's no auctions, no offer ups. They're almost always really, really good prices. So it's just you got to grab it as they come up. And a great variety. So like trade, calling cards, trade cards, magazines, books, everything. But there's another one that has the metallic in the background, but chopped up. So again, this was a bigger card that somebody cut down to go into a scrapbook, and it never made it into the scrapbook. So,
mine all came from a scrapbook. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the only trade cards I have is a metallic, but it's like the one you just showed, where it's like they just did two colors.
Yeah, it was like the sepia within the metallic. Yep.
Yeah.
So I
wonder if that was like a thing.
I wonder if it might have just been limited what they could do, with that color. Like now with this one, I think this one has the metallic. So this is one that falls in kind of the scrap category because I have no idea what this is advertising. I mean, she's holding a Swiss stamp and there's nothing on the back. And I have her and I have her.
In France.
So I don't know what country she is. Can't quite read that. So, but they're beautifully done. So this one does have more color, but it definitely has that metallic back as well. There's this one, which I'm almost positive was cut from something.
That one's awesome.
Yeah. So this is like one of the few fairy ones that I have. But this is, again, it was a regular. Now, this one you can also tell was glued into a scrapbook. So you can see the glue marks. So like this whole stack are ones that are just pictures. So there's no company on the front of these at all.
Wait, so that flag that you just showed, was it red on top?
I think yes.
I think that's Dutch.
Dutch? Okay.
Yeah.
And if I get this under a magnifying glass, I can probably figure out what that says because it's the other one said Swiss right across it.
Yeah.
This it says something BA something, like it's two words.
Yeah.
So, but like, what would that be advertising? Like, I literally have no idea what this would be for. But some of these, like, they're just I call them scrap, but they're beautiful. But they're just not really advertising anything. And so then they get are they cut from the front part of a greeting card? I don't think it is because this one has a white border all the way around it. So this was printed to be this piece, but why? But you start seeing a lot of flowers. Like that's what goes into the scrapbook a lot.
Yeah.
I just saw somebody type chocolate. So I do have like a whole stack of food ones. Like this one, this was part of a set. I sold them separately.
Chicory.
Oh, she's cute.
And so there's a little puppy on the floor.
What does it say at the bottom?
But so she's a chocolat, pure cacao and sugar. Yeah, so I have several that are all in French, or some that are all in German. So that was chocolate. This is food. Like some of the food, they're like, this is like a little cigarette card, size wise, from Dijon, France. But you can see on the back it's selling succursale, so something about sugar and confectionaries. So it's the size of a cigarette card.
Yeah, I was going to say, so there are trade cards that are the size of the cigarette cards.
Yeah.
So the difference, I would say, and the easiest way that you're going to know, like if I open up my actual binder of cigarette cards, they're all different eras, but as a general rule, I pull one out. As a general rule, they're always going to say the name of the company in the same place on the bottom of the card. So here's one of them. So this is the Old English Pottery and Porcelain set. So this has the Rockingham. It'll always say the name on the bottom. So the cigarette cards, and that's a tobacco manufacturing company. So Wills, Reynolds, like some of the names you're going to know. Most of these are British. So a lot of the names we're not going to know. But again, they're numbered 18. And that's the difference too with tobacco cards, although this one doesn't seem to say, most of them will say like number 18 out of 25 or out of 50 or something. Like, you know what you're up against if you're trying to finish the set.
Yes. We did discuss that, Rachel, at the beginning, but that they would go in and pick stock images.
If we change screens, I might grab them. I actually have some that are actually the stock images that say right on there, 50 of these available for $2.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Wow.
That is
like your text here. Yeah.
Those are mine. Like those
Which, if you want to make me bigger, if you want to grab those, I can show. I only have 4 things to show, so I don't have very much. These would, I guess, fall under the scrap. There's no information about who these were for, but both of these were in a series that you can tell. So here's these 2 little kids jumping over
a race
fence. It does have the printer information on it. So maybe these were, it's Categorizing, Philadelphia.
Hey, Randy. Sorry.
And then this one has, they're dressed up as, farmers.
Yeah.
It looks like Napoleon in the background.
Napoleon in the back. Yeah.
And again, this is Categorizing, Philadelphia. So maybe they were printing these and they wanted people to buy them. And then these have metallics. But again, no information on these whatsoever. So there's these little kids. And it's a silvery background. And this one's spraying the sleeping one.
It almost looks like an air horn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this one, they're dressed up as clowns.
Oh, that's cute.
And they're wearing roller skates.
I like that one.
And again, this is silvered metallic. But what's the name of those clowns? It's a Poros.
Oh, a Pierrot? Yeah.
Yeah. They're dressed up as Pierrots.
No, this is learning, but if you saw something you liked,
you should follow Patrick because
go subscribe to Patrick's channel, #1, Susan, and then you can find how to contact him through his email, and then he also sells on eBay and on Instagram, so there are a lot of ways to buy some of the items that you just saw.
I'll drop.
Plus, we're having an ephemera sale on Patrick's channel next February 6th, Thursday, February 6th. So
and
I
a
want
lot of this stuff
everyone,
will definitely be saved for that sale. So
yeah, I want everyone to please come to that. So keep an eye out on my Instagram. I will be reminding everyone and promoting that sale April 6th, and it'll be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys can come to that.
And you can follow me on Instagram as well. I'm also Trusty Huckster Mercantile on Instagram.
Let me get your Instagram link.
So I couldn't find the ones I was looking. I made so many different stacks. I can't, of course, find the specific one that I was looking for, but I did find an example. This happens to be a Victorian trade card, or I'm sorry, a Victorian calling card. It's a hidden name card, which I learned about exclusively on Bergamot and
Brocante.
Brocante. So this is a hidden name, but when you open up the hidden name, it actually it's the friendship series.
Oh.
12 for 20
cents.
Whatever, 20 cents. Clinton Brothers and Company, Cedarville, Connecticut. So I have a couple others that they're like the salesman samples. Because again, people don't know what a huckster is. A huckster is kind of a derogatory term for a salesman. I like collecting huckster stuff. And so I'm the trusty huckster. So, I'm trying to counteract that. But I love salesman samples. And these are really fun. And they're not particularly common. But like catalogs, I just got in the mail yesterday. I was like devouring it at like 2:00 in the morning last night. It's a catalog from a ink blotter manufacturing company. And it is every design they had available to make an ink blotter out of. All in full color. Unfortunately, it's later than I thought it was. When I bought it, they said it was from the teens. It wasn't, because I suddenly turned the page and I found a picture of President Roosevelt, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So it was actually from the 30s, but it's still really cool. So that kind of stuff. But those little pieces. So I'm not going to say that the blanks weren't salesman samples, but I think that they were probably stock. That they would you'd go into the store and they would have, 500 of these just sitting in a block, because it would be a lot cheaper for them. Because if you think of how Heather Elizabeth showed the process of making it, this is how many colors. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like there's multiple colors in this. If each one of them is printed as a separate process, they would have created an entire page of these, and then either kept them as a solid page or cut them apart and then stamped a little stamp of the company's name. So I think that's why these are relatively common, because when they went out of favor, what were you going to do with them? You just had stacks and stacks of them. You could use them as scrap paper, but for the most part, they just didn't have a purpose. And so it's really this one I find
went in a box and went in a closet.
Yeah. It's just the printing house closed and they just had stacks of these. And so those you do come across, but the ones that actually are the ones of the salesman, or that they would have shipped like a catalog, those are a little bit less common. So those would go for more, because there aren't that many of them.
Yeah. Well, do you have any more items that you want to share?
Nothing else that really jumps out. We did talk about, because the other thing, because hucksters are typically known for like quack medicine type stuff. So I
was going to bring up, those, I have a few, because I try to group my ephemera around a year. So 1910. So I have like Doan's Directory, which, is full of quack medicine.
So we got
Parker's
Tonic, Horsford Acid. And some of these aren't necessarily quack medicines, but they're, again, 19th century medicinal. Horsford Acid Phosphate.
I think the medicinal would be a great category for collecting trade cards.
Absolutely. So these are just ones that I picked up as part of a box lot. And that's what you typically will find these in auction places. You're not going to buy them one at a time. You're going to end up buying, 10, 20, 50, 100. And so on a per piece basis, I may get something like this, which is absolutely gorgeous, both front and back, but it's going to be mixed alongside of something that doesn't really have any value at all. So it's kind of hard to even know what you're going to end up paying. Cures neuralgia, diphtheria, rheumatism. And then this is our little, the one takeaway for tonight. For people that don't know, the word etc. originally was written with an ampersand and a C, and it became ETC. So you got diphtheria, rheumatism, and C, etc. So that's
I didn't know that.
That's where it comes from. So in the older type, you won't ever see the word etc. You'll see an ampersand and the C,
etc.
And that's where it comes from, because and is the et is the Latin for and.
Yeah,
and
it's French too. Yeah.
So et and etc. And such became etc. And so that's the way it was typically printed. So, and with the trademarks, some of that stuff. Yeah. So that's and that's what I like to do on my channel. Like I do live sales on YouTube. I have the slowest live sales ever because I will explain everything I'm selling. Like I'm not going to sell you something because it's pink. I'm going to sell you something because it was manufactured in such a time period, and this is how it was stamped, and this is what you do. And Tammy Renee Walker, that is my goal. You learn something every day, and if you don't, your day's not done. Brown's iron bitters, this is gorgeous.
Oh, that's lovely.
It is beautiful.
And so this is Mrs. Langtree. So Lily Langtree. So this was probably a character that she must have played. And so you can actually learn stuff from a lot of the cards, because it's going to talk about the culture. It's going to talk about what was popular. Oh, this is also something I wanted to show. So I would not necessarily call this as a trade card, because what this is in English on the front, but it's clearly been cut out of a German language magazine. So this was never designed to be a standalone handout. So this wouldn't be something, because
it was an ad that got cut
it was
out.
an ad.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes you can tell if somebody cut it into a die cut or something, or cut it around, maybe it was a card. This is pretty clean. You can see there's green at the top. This was the picture. The fact that the text doesn't align on the back means it's not a trade card. Doesn't make it any less attractive. It's something to, if you collect German stuff. And you mentioned about the silver metallic. I don't have many, but here's one. So
pretty.
So you can just kind of see how much sheen is in the backdrop of that. But you see there, they made the print area white, so you weren't printing directly on the metallic. So it actually survived. And then check out the back.
Ooh, pretty. Oh, I love.
Some of these is okay, wait a minute, which side do I want to display?
Yeah.
And the nice thing about the cheap frames, you can just take out the, you get 2 of the dollar frames, take out the cardboard backing, and put the 2 pieces of glass in there, hanging on the wall. You've got a front and back frame.
Well, on Amazon, they have these acrylic ones that will stand on their own. They're just magnetic. And so you can just flip them.
That if you got the stuff that's on the back, this actually will work.
Oh, that's beautiful. Do you find a lot of bookmarks?
No, this is I think I have 2. I mean, I literally have hundreds of them around me right now, and I think I have 2. So, and this one's actually, and this was actually a really nice one, because
there's
the
some
flower has been die cut to hook onto
the page. Yeah.
So it's truly a bookmark, not just this long, skinny piece of paper, and it's embossed, which isn't particularly common. I would say only 10 or 20% of the ones that I have are embossed.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
This is a case, and this is going to come across, you're going to come across this a lot as well. It was on a scrapbook page, and somebody just cut it out. So I have no idea what the back of this looks like.
It's fused to another trade card?
To a piece of paper, and then a scrapbook page, and then these women were on the opposite side of that scrapbook page.
Oh,
and check out those dresses. It was this would have been a beautiful piece, but they saved this instead.
Interesting.
So, and this was just my stack of the medicine ones, and so Niagara Starch, not really medicine, but household stuff.
Okay.
So Smith Brothers, Borax, and some of those. So it had more text on the back. So this is actually directions. So this may have come in the packaging. Hunter's Invisible, Cosmetics. And then, of course, we've got the dog again. I'm going to take out the plastic. Oh, I'm a dog person over a cat person, so I do get attracted to these. But again, for Parker's Tonic.
Malcolm heard your blasphemy, and he is here.
Sorry, Malcolm. And I would say the later they got, the more the text got pushed to the edges because they recognized what people were doing with them was putting them into those scrapbooks. So if you've got a lot of text all in the center, it's probably a little bit earlier. It's really hard to date these. It's one of the reasons I like the calendar ones because it makes it very easy. And there were some, I think I showed some of them do have a little copyright at the very bottom. Just remember, I'm sure everyone thinks of this, but just remember a copyright doesn't mean that's the year it was made. It means that was the year that design was copyrighted and protected. You'll typically still see a copyright on thing for several years after the fact, but it can't be any earlier than that.
Yeah, you see that a lot on postcards, like the images copyrighted, but then it was sent and signed and dated.
Exactly, it could have been like 3 or 4 years later. You kind of figure it's like a lot of the patents and things like that. They're popular to advertise maybe up to about 10 years is kind of.
Well, you have to think you could be just like me, like you buy greeting cards when they're on sale or when there's a good deal, and you put them in a closet, and then you send them 10 years later.
And postcards. I don't know if have you done a video on postcards or have you done a channel on postcards?
I did around Halloween. I did a quick one on illustrated postcards, mostly because I wanted to look at Halloween postcards. But we did touch on it. We did touch on it. If you go back into the episodes, you'll find
it about the divided and everything. So.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's stuff that I was learning. Trying to figure out. Like, okay, wait a minute. This has an undivided back, but it has a 2-cent stamp on it. Well, that means it wasn't sent until after 1917. So it's like, so at some point they just were doing undivided backs because you didn't have to have the division. And I think that ended at like 1915 where that rule like kind of died out. So it's a game. And that's what I like doing the research, trying to figure out, okay, wait a minute, what is this? Or well, it can't be any earlier than this. How late could it be? So.
All right. So Angela wants to quickly share something. Oh shoot! Hold on.
So we didn't do our normal segments, but I wanted to do a media must in honor of Patrick.
Yeah, there we go.
Because have you heard of Max Miller's Tasting History on YouTube?
I have not.
So he finds recipes or ideas about an era, and then he researches it and talks about it.
Oh, cool.
So like the Great Molasses Flood, he did bread in a can because it uses molasses and things like that. But what I wanted to tell you about specifically is last year, in honor of the 110th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic, he did recipes from the last day that the Titanic sailed. Cool. So, and like what life was like for the different classes throughout there, plus the baker that survived and things like that. And he actually he's going to keep doing Titanic ones based on when he finds menus that were still around. Oh, I love borscht.
I like borscht.
Kusna borscht. Sorry.
Well, that's one of my personal collections is cruise ship menus. So I resell menus. I love doing ephemera, but I resell menus. But anything that's a cruise ship prior to World War II. I prefer prior to World War I, but those are really hard to come by.
Yeah. But he just did the first class breakfast on the Titanic just
definitely check that out.
Few days ago. But he's got a whole playlist there of Titanic episodes. He's lots of fun to watch. He's got lots of episodes. So if you need something to watch and you like history and food, it's a perfect thing. So
excellent.
Brought that in honor of Patrick today.
All right. I will take a look at Tasting History.
Excellent.
Perfect. All right. So just a reminder, I'm having a sale with Patrick on April 6th, and it's going to be an ephemera sale, and I want all of you to come.
And that'll be on my channel.
Yes, on your channel. What else did you want to share? Anything that you have coming up that you'd like to share before you go?
Nothing that I've got specifically scheduled. I will be doing, I have a couple of topics that I want to do some trusty vintage deep dives on, just things that hadn't gotten done yet. I do community theater as well, and that's kind of picked back up, but I'm in a in-between time right now. So I'm hoping to get caught up on getting some videos done. I've got a great collection of 19th century letters from a Long Island landscape designer. And it's like it's all letters to and from his customers. And like one of his customers, I need to find, I'm going to go on to ancestry.com and see if I can find anything about him. He's like, oh yeah, well, I want to have an alley of trees that goes along the side of my property about 2 miles. Like your property line is 2 miles long. Like, okay, this is not somebody's garden. Like this is huge. And Paper Nerds, I just saw Marcy's question. Paper Nerds, I will continue participating in Paper Nerds. I've historically been doing every other month because just from a logistics thing, Paper Nerds is only on Instagram. It is not, it's not a video. It is posts on Instagram. It takes a lot of time to make all the photographs. And if I'm going to do all the photographing for something, I might as well put it onto eBay. And so that's sometimes how I make the differentiation of what goes into a live sale or something like what Heather, Elizabeth, and I are going to be doing. If it's just like $5, that's not worth selling on eBay. So, so Paper Nerds is going to happen again in April. I will participate in that. Anybody can follow the hashtag and anyone can request to join. So the channel is the page or the account is just Paper Nerds. And you can follow that, but they don't post anything other than for the members.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I will participate in that. That'll be in April. And I will be doing another Beth from Carolina Princess Sweet Treats and Pretties, and I alternate doing a shop hop of drop sale videos. So if people are used to, or if they're, you like the concept of shopping on YouTube, I do sometimes do live sales. That's something I've really figured out a new schedule yet. I did them every week for 2 years, and then I kind of like walked away from that. So I'll still be doing that. But the drop sale format is actually the next sale is coming up. No, the next one will be April. It'll be mine. It'll be April 20th, I think. That'll have, I think, 8 members. Heather, Elizabeth, and I are both going to be a part of that one. That I will do a $5 ephemera sale as part of that. But those are pre-recorded sales. Again, no offer ups. It's just, watch the video. Yeah. You can fast forward those videos.
Yeah, you can watch it quick.
Yeah, you can get to the end of a video and buy something before someone else has even gotten to that point of the video. It's a little mean, but
it is mean.
It's all fair, love and war. Like some of the resellers don't like it because they want to get their viewing hours. I want to make my customers happy. So
it just took me a while to realize people were doing that. And I'm just like, darn it, why am I always missing? How
did you get in so fast? It's like, yep, somebody was fast forwarding.
Gotta watch it on chipmunk speed, y'all.
Yep. Yeah, I haven't mastered that one. I'll literally put in the scrubbing bar because the picture will show every time they hold up something new. Like, okay, what is that? Nope, don't want that. What's that? And there aren't that many of us that do ephemera. So that's why I was really excited to do work doing the ephemera sale. As a live sale, we'll just see how much we get through to it, get done.
I'm excited.
And we'll mix it up. It'll be more than trade cards. I'll have a lot.
I'm not selling any trade cards.
I'll definitely be selling some of what I showed, but I'll mix it up. So I'll definitely have some other stuff. I've got some postcards. And my thing, I don't really do kitsch. I like antique. Like I basically will get into, true 100 years or older. Doesn't mean I won't have something newer, but my paper is going to be old. So,
yeah. Awesome. Well, what do you have going on, Angie?
Tomorrow, you got? On my channel at 6:30, I'm doing a haul from my $1 estate sale.
Well, we will all tune into that. You definitely want to see her haul, you guys. If you saw her first haul from that estate sale,
it's where I got my bed.
What she got on the dollar day. So
excellent.
That will be fun. That will be fun.
And Joyce just has a quick question. She asked if I do books. I have some 19th century books that they're falling apart. So I'm literally selling those at $5 a piece as well. But in general, no, I might do children's books because I work in publishing as my day job. But I only like doing antique books and I don't come across them very often.
Yeah, I did get some ephemera. at the
Awesome.
$1 a day. So
Cool.
come see.
Right. Well, I want to thank everyone who stayed until the end.
I know. Sorry, I talked too much. I told Heather she may need to shut me up. So.
We like the info.
We do. We love it. And everyone who watches and stays, we all love learning. And so I'm sure they really enjoyed this. I did for sure. So thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us gals. All right. So until we see you guys tomorrow on Angela's channel for her haul, hope you have a great night. And we'll see you tomorrow. And then come back to Angela's channel next Monday, of course.
For B&B on my channel next Monday. And have a fantastic week, everybody.
Yes, we love all of you. Thanks so much.
Night,
Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.
Good night.